the week, the leadership of the National Assembly faulted the implementation of the Social Investment Program as the lockdown over coronavirus continues in the country, calling for an overhaul.
In a counter statement, the special advisor to the President on National Social Investment Program, Mrs. Miriam Uwais, described some of the assertions made by the leaders of the National Assembly as untrue.
It will be noted that the federal government of Nigeria established the National Social Investment Program in 2016 to tackle poverty, hunger across the nation. So joining us now from our Abuja studio is Miriam Uwais, Special Advisor to the President on Social Investment. What is happening? There was a staring assault in the papers recently. Ms. Miriam Uwais, if you can hear me, what is happening? There was a staring assault in the papers today. The National Assembly went gone to get offended by what you said. This is what you said, and I quote, "The reason why they don't believe in the social investment program is because some people close to them have not got the money already." What is really happening as regards this?
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to clarify what I said. The process that was set up was as provided in an agreement that was signed by the World Bank directly with the Nigerian government. And even before this administration came in 2015, 8 states had signed the agreement directly with the World Bank. So they had collated information from the communities directly. They engaged the communities. What the office does is train people in the states and the local governments. They go into the communities and they ask the communities directly, what is poverty to you? Because poverty differs from community to community or state to state. And the important thing was to be able to go around the entire country. So what is poverty to one community may not be poverty to the next community. Now, this is done in focus group discussions. And then the focus group discussions actually select the households. They say who they are that fall into the parameters that they draw up. So they give a list amongst them who it is they feel is really poor in their community. A plenary is held, and then those communities, I mean the heads of those communities, the community leaders, they sign off on that list. There has to be an agreement by everybody in plenary. Although the focus groups are women, men, youth, maybe traditional rulers or religious leaders, as the community decides. That list is now taken up by enumerators who have also been trained. They visit each and every household that has been identified by the community. All of them have a tablet. These tablets, I mean, these enumerators take in information that is critical for development. So the things they look out for are the size of the household, gender components, the ages of everybody in the household. They want to know whether there's roofing material, whether there's provision of water, what the assets are in the community. You have different things that are thrown up. Some will put motorbicycles, some will put TV, some will put kettles, some will put... It all depends on what the asset is. Now, the reason why we put it on this device is because we have a proxy means testing formula that automatically ranks everybody that is entered onto that device from the poorest to the least poor. Now, because we were aware that, or we're conscious of the fact that we would not have enough money to go around the entire country, not everybody on that device is actually paid the stipends. What every state does is now send the information up to the federal level, and the federal office, which is called NASCO, the National Social Safety Net Coordinating Office, sorts them. It is only those on the lowest 6th decile that are actually paid. Now, the lowest 6 are given to the cash transfer office here in Abuja. They now send those 6, the beneficiary register now, not the social register. We call that the beneficiary register. They send that back to the states, and then the state enumerators go to every household that has been selected as the poorest, and then they register the caregivers in that household for payment. They give them an ID card, not just for payment, but also because there's training that happens. Every week, we have trained community facilitators that visit these caregivers in the wards, ward per ward. And they train them on how to form savings, financial literacy, on nutrition, on sanitation, on hygiene. So this is how the process has been. Now, I saw a graph or some picture that was being circulated yesterday that did not have a date, and I could not authenticate it. But I do know that at least 26 states were on that list and of those being paid. And some of those states did not appear on that graph. So I found it very suspect. I thought that there was something behind it, because I didn't understand why, at least we saw yesterday, the minister was part of the process in Imo State and Abia State, those two states didn't appear on the list. When I left, I know Benue was much more, and I saw it as the least on that list. So I'm not too sure about the authenticity of that picture that has been circulated widely.
All right, Madam Uwais.
But I mean, as I said, I can't. The parameters differ from community to community, because what one community says is poor is different. From some states, when I was there, some of the communities would say, you know, the children don't go to school, so we feel that they are poor. And then at plenary, somebody would put up their hand and say, no, the children don't go to school not because they're poor, but because their parents or their father doesn't believe in Western education. That happened in Kano State. And there was a debate, and in the end, that person was taken off the list. So unless the community is satisfied that those people are poor, we do not allow anybody to put anybody else on the list or to remove anybody, even when they visit the houses of these people and they find that they are not that poor. The enumerators do not have the authority to remove anybody from the list. We use the PMT to actually ensure that only the poorest get paid. So you can be on the social register, but you won't get paid. This is why we have like 2.6 million households on the register now, and I think just over 1 million are being paid.
Well,
so and of course there are many things that have caused. Okay.
It does sound like a detailed process to generate and populate this national social register. And let me ask you, so with all of this, why do you think it still generates so much controversies, especially about reaching the intended beneficiary? You also talked about briefing the minister when you handed over to her in October last year. And the whole essence of President Muhammadu Buhari institutionalizing this scheme was to make it seamless, transparent, and efficient. But when you hear the minister say that I don't have a hang of this, there are lots of intrigues I don't understand, how does that make you feel?
Well, I'm not sure what she's referring to when she says she doesn't understand. I was there for the period between, as I said, October and January, and all the clusters are still working with her. So, I mean, if there's any information she requires, I'm sure they're on standby to give it to her. The National Social Safety Net Coordinating Office has actually not been disbanded. It's still there. As I said, it's been able to collate more than 5 million people onto that register, even in the period that I've been away. So it's actually something that has been going on for a while. And the reason why I spoke out was because the register itself is a precondition to us utilizing the funds from the World Bank and the Abacha loot. Well, that came later. But because the World Bank has to monitor what is done by the Abacha loot by an MOU signed by government and also approved by FEC, there's going to be a challenge if we put in people that are actually not, that we haven't followed this process through onto the register. So this is why I was concerned enough to speak out. Now that said, many states, as I said, we began with 8 states, even from data collated from the Jonathan administration. We only picked everything up and validated and then hosted it and then continued the process in other states. Now, every state has to open an office in their Ministry of Planning. Every state has to give us personnel with certain skills. We were looking for survey people that understand gender, people that understand a lot of ICT issues, enumerators, surveyors, and we actually review the CVs before we begin the process. Again, we look at a poverty mapping because we began with 30% of each state, and then after we close, so for the first 8 now, we're in the last part of the state. Whereas some states were very slow. For some states, after we've trained those people, they change them. And we have to start training all over again. So it's been a very tedious process, but thankfully for the NASCO, it hasn't been too overwhelming because many of the states, I mean, it became not everybody at the same time because not everybody was ready.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I just want to go to...
I can tell you, yeah.
Okay, I just want to go to this real quickly. I know you have a lot to say. These are what people that have contrary opinions are saying. This is it, number one. They are more than, it's just even more than conditional cash transfer. You have the Jeep, you have the Empire, you have other programs in there. You have trader money. Correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of people said the trader money was just a campaign ploy. That once the campaign ended, we're not hearing anything about the trader money. And how can we effectively document trader money? There are cases of people on Empower that have not been paid, that still come out to complain that have not been paid. Somebody came to debunk that as of this morning, said they've been paid at least up till January. Why have they not been paid? Conditional cash transfer. A lot of people that have contrary opinions said this was given to political cronies and people that were allies that have voted for a certain party. The school feeding program. Punch brought out a report, a detailed report, talking about that the program was not pervasive in states of the
Can I answer you one by one? Because everyone, I have an answer for you.
Okay, start from where you can start
and
from.
You're throwing so many questions, I'm going to forget one.
Okay, start from where you are. Start from just where you want to pick it up from.
Okay, so I can't speak for payments between October and now. I think that question should be directed to the people who are in charge of the programs right now. Okay? But as far as JEEP is concerned, JEEP is the Government Empowerment and Enterprise Program. That has been managed by the Bank of Industry. So what we do is we give them the funds. When the funds are expended, they now give us a report. The Ministry of Budget and Planning was our accounting arm. They did our procurement. Money never came to my office. Now, they would review the documents, the records that were submitted by Bank of Industry, and when they're satisfied, they now give the next tranche. So the Bank of Industry has set up very, very elaborate, the data is there. You have a command center both in Abuja and in Lagos. And I invite you to please visit there. Every single person that has been given a loan, trader money, market money, farmer money, there are 3 components in JEEP. Every single person is captured there. You have their profile, you even have their geolocation. Everybody can be tracked and measured, so that data is secure. We outsourced to the Bank of Industry because the Bank of Industry has a license to give microcredit. The government does not have that. Furthermore, the Bank of Industry allowed us to leverage on their offices. They gave us offices around the country. They gave us their staff. They gave us, you know, there's a 5% admin fee. There's no interest on that loan, but there's a flat fee. So if somebody takes a 50,000 loan, a market woman takes it, she needs to pay back 52,500 after 6 months. Now, that's the 5% admin fee because we needed to pay the agents who run around for us. Now, we leveraged on all their different connections. You know, they have banks that they use, they have agents that they use. We didn't have that. So we had to work with a partner that would give us that advantage. There is no commercial bank that would have allowed us to work with them at no interest, for instance. So as far as GP is concerned, that is my answer. Please do go to the command centers in Bank of Industry at Abuja and in Lagos. You will see everybody that has been captured.
Well, one statement...
So what was the other question?
The other one was school feeding program. And Sheita, you have a question, just ask your question so you can answer both together. I just want to come in here, you know, because we're going on a break very shortly. But one thing that we can take from here is the fact that this social investments program is in dire need of a reform. According to the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Femi Gbajamila, he came out and said, I know you came into a system that was already flawed. However, it is your responsibility to look into it and begin to change it. How do we begin to change the system? We can have this conversation from morning till night. However, if we're not talking about a way forward, then it's going to be redundant. How do we begin to practice these reforms?
Well, I would say that no system is perfect. There's always room for improvement. But I am satisfied that we did the best that we could within the constraints of the Nigerian terrain. That's all I can say, because I was not at that hearing. I was not in a position to respond to them. I was only alarmed at the potential implications of what would happen if people were added onto the list without going through the process that we had signed up to. This is the reason why I spoke out. I'm sure they have their reasons for wanting to reform the system. I don't know in what respect. And frankly, it's not my responsibility anymore.
Well, you have repeated that phrase a couple of times in the course of this conversation. But let me ask you, as you look down the barrel of the lenses of the camera in front of you, can you confidently tell Nigerians that from 2015, when you handled this program, up until last year, October, that the most vulnerable captured in the National Social Register and the social investment programs? Can you tell Nigerians confidently that you did a great job?
I believe I did as best as we could. I feel that it is an improvement on what we have seen. Are the people that are poor in my community. I feel going into the communities and sitting with them and asking them who is poor is the best way. Now, is that foolproof? No, it may not be. This is why we added another layer of let's do this PMT and see what is in that house. And besides, the data is critical. You know, people misunderstand me when I say these people were invisible. These people are not known on the Nigerian landscape because they are not registered anywhere on any platform. They don't have NIN numbers, they don't have BVNs, there is no way. I mean, we have people that are kidnapped or disappear because their neighbors know or their loved ones know, then there's a report. But when we started seeing in Nigeria whole communities being disbanded, there are people that will get whole communities being attacked and kidnapped, then there's nobody to report, really. Those people will die or disappear, and nobody will know they even existed. That's what I mean by they're invisible on the Nigerian landscape. What we've done with the National Social Register, at least until September, is to ensure that these people are registered somewhere. We know where they are, we know their densities, the densities of the populations in certain parts, we know their circumstances, and really, if we want to be able to improve human capital indices, we have the data to be able to do that. So, yes, it's not foolproof, but I think it is as authentic as can be in terms of getting to who it is that knows who they are.
That is very reassuring. And like you did say, no system is perfect, and we do agree with you. We just need to build on what you have left on ground, and we hope that the minister will have a quick grasp of what this is all about. But let me shift gears very quickly. You were a member of the editorial board of This Day before you joined government. I wonder if you missed the practice of journalism.
I don't know if I was actually a journalist, being a member of the editorial board, but yes, I do miss the debates. It was a very healthy, environment, and we sat there with people from all backgrounds, with different perspectives, and everybody listened to the viewpoints of the others. And I'm looking forward to going back, even if not to This Day, to be able to express myself without any constraints. It's really very difficult sometimes when you want to speak out and express yourself, and people tell you, you're in government.
We'd like to say a very big thank you. That shows the legitimacy of the debate right here. But Situki understands the fact that you were once, on this side. But thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.